everybody. Welcome to Sancho After Dark. I am beyond pleased to welcome back an individual that I have gotten so much feedback when I was such a baby channel. So much feedback. You got to get Eric on. You two had great chemistry. It could have went for hours and hours and hours. When we're back, Eric, welcome back to El Sancho Show.
Thank you very much. Good to be back. And we did go for hours and hours last time too. So
That's another talent you and I have when it comes to women. I will throw that out there right off the bat. The stamina aspect from talking to taking the skills of time management and focus and transferring it to the bedroom with women.
yes. Well,
Is that safe
we
to say?
definitely had time management and focus down.
Time
100%.
management and focus is key. So let's kind of catch up. What have you been up to since we last spoke on the show?
Man, super busy. Just getting everything ready for book launch, which is October 13th. My first book hits the store shelves, so that's going to be available. Obviously, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Chapters, Indigo up in Canada. So worldwide, you can find it at your local distributor. So that's really been keeping me busy. So working on that, working with my personal clients. Then still finding the time to do, the odd porno shoot here and there, to keep my skills sharp and keep my toe on the pulse of what's going on out there. So.
How nervous are you in the book? Question A, and kind of, walk us through, because it seemed like the last time we talked, there was a little bit of a not a gap between filming, but you were focused on the book, you were focused on other projects and stuff. So, kind of walk us through your first film back since we talked, and the pressure or any nervousness as far as it comes to filming this, doing this book. And this is kind of a new chapter for you, literally, pardon the pun here, but this is a new chapter. This is a kind of, this is your first book, as you said.
Yeah.
This is a new realm. Like, you're kind of, jumping into a realm where there's so many experienced authors, and here comes this new guy in the block with a super fucking interesting story. Let's, walk us through the nerves, if any, and then talk about your first shoot back.
Well, I mean, that's actually what's funny, right? Is if I think about it, I have way more nerves and everything about the book release, everything to do with that than I do stepping on a porno set. I mean, that's old hat. I could do that, blindfolded with one arm cut off, right? So it is interesting because, as you said, stepping into a new path, a new career, a new everything, you're stepping into the unknown, and the unknown is always a little bit, nerve-wracking, exciting, scary. It's a mixture of everything, right? So, in that sense, it's it's a whole new challenge, but I'm excited to do it. So, yeah.
So walk us through your scene that you did after, you know, any memorable highlights, any memorable co-stars, and how many scenes did you film since we talked?
Mm, oh God, I wouldn't really know the number.
Wow, that many?
Yeah,
You
I never
got you
keep I never
busy,
keep
man.
track. I've been busy. No, but no, there was one fabulous girl I ended up working with recently, and really great personality. She was a sweetheart. Her name was Zuzu Sweet, and I must say this girl works out.
I want to fucking Google her right now.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we're talking about ass like
Zuzu,
granite.
Zuzu Sweet. All right, obviously,
Yeah.
I need a. Is it Z-O then
No,
Sweet?
Zuzu.
What is it again?
Zuzu Sweet.
Oh, Z-U-Z-U.
Yeah, Zuzu.
All right, I gotta find something appropriate for YouTube. All right,
Find something YouTube appropriate. Yes.
that might be appropriate for YouTube.
Yeah.
This is the issue with it. With any thoughts of you having a YouTube show, we talked about this off air.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. How do you how do you
um,
manage?
it takes some skill, to be honest. Um, but you know, you gotta be. I mean, the biggest thing is like copyright strikes. I mean, like the other day, I was telling you about that stream off air that I did about that piece of shit couple,
Hmm.
and I like, the dude was on the Steve Wilkos show, and he failed a polygraph on like one important question, and I played it thinking, let's expose this crap, and my stream
Yeah.
got shut down for like 5 minutes because that's the Steve Wilkos show. You're not allowed to play that. There's copyright laws and shit. So
Uh,
those are the things mainly. I mean, you don't have to worry about it because you can't clearly mirror Brazzers or Pink Angel or any of these films, so you're
yeah.
kind of clear from that. All right. Let me see if I can show.
What you got?
So
What you got?
is that her?
Mm-hmm.
That is
That is,
her.
that is her.
That's acceptable to show. She's in a bra, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. You're totally good. You're totally
So
good.
so so like describe, this is after dark. This is late for most people, unlike you being out of the country. Kind of walk us through, if you want, what surprised you about her first impressions, and you've been with a lot of women, so I
Well,
think it's fair to say it's difficult to impress you right now. No?
yeah, but you know what was most impressive? Well, it was two things really. Like, and it's something we can touch on as we go, right? Like, you cannot build sexual chemistry, right? It's sort of either on some level exists or it doesn't, because there's so many factors that go into it, right? Like, I mean, because if you think about sexual chemistry, like, well, you've got, mental, emotional components, but a huge component is physical, and just simply how two people fit together, right? And in my book, I talk about that, where I say, what I call the lock and key theory, where some people, they just don't mesh, and it doesn't matter how much you love them, how much you want to be with them, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, man, if the key doesn't fit the hole, it's never going to unlock the lock. It's like, no matter how hard you try, it's not going to work. And so, showing up on a porno set, you get to see that often in real time, because I can tell you, I've worked with some girls where I'm like, wow, we have zero chemistry, right? Like, this doesn't work between us. But then conversely, you can work with people where you have amazing sexual chemistry. So that's a big part of things, and I think a lot of people, out there in the real world, nobody ever talks about it, right? So I think for a lot of people, they assume sexual compatibility, sexual chemistry is something that you create over time, and no, I don't find that to be true at all.
That's actually a good quote. I'm see if this is it right here. No, Eden pussy. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, this one, we want love, we want affection, but mixed up in there as well, we want to get fucked. It's part of who we are as species. It's part of our DNA. And even on a spiritual level, it's one of the defining things that connects us to others. Part of relating and part of relating and being related to happens in the bedroom. It's where we lay it all out on the line. Um,
Yep.
Big part about that is the chemistry aspect. A big part about
Hmm.
that. So talk about first impressions, and if chemistry can rekindle or reignite after a somewhat not the best first impression.
Huh. I mean, well, to me, they are very separate, and that's what's interesting. I mean, you could um, have a good or bad impression of someone as an individual, but that doesn't carry over to their sexuality, which is interesting. Um, and especially because in porno, you do have the ability to completely separate the two, whereas I think for a lot of people, everything ends up getting collapsed together, right? So it's just like how sex and love often, those things get collapsed together. Um, in porno, you have this ability where you can see that they can be separated, not that they always are, but that they can be. Um, So that's one of the things there is, you just see, well, these things can be separate. And so, a first impression, it could be positive, it could be negative, but there's no part of that that is necessarily indicative of the sexual chemistry. Because on a physical level, it can be totally different than what it is on a personal mental level. And that's often what's sad in some ways, is that you can actually have amazing chemistry with someone on a personal level and have zero fucking chemistry sexually. And you wouldn't know, and you honestly wouldn't know until you're fucking. And that makes it even sadder, right? Because you're like, oh my God, this is going to be so great. This person's amazing. And then you get there and you're like, fuck.
Can you recover from that?
What's that?
Can you recover from that? I mean, how I relate to that.
I don't believe so. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. And I think that's something that the mainstream, it's a good story everybody likes to tell, right? They just say, well, if you just work on your relationship, you just have better communication. It's like, well, if I have a dick that's shaped like A and she has a pussy that's shaped like Y and they don't fit together, there's no amount of talking that's gonna, it just doesn't work. And like I said, it's like if I went to my neighbor's door right now and tried to put my key in, it's not going to fit. Like there's no, I could talk to the key all I want. I can be like, please go in the hole. I mean, it's not going to happen. So, it's one of those harsh realities in a sense, but I think people should be aware, mainly because I think so many people end up spending large chunks of their lives trying to make relationships work sexually that never will. And it's because they are fed that, let's just call it propaganda, that, if they have better communication, if they have better this, if they have better that magically things are going to get better. And if it is a physical problem or physical impediment in the bedroom, it's not going to change. It's just not going to.
I was in a long-term relationship that you just described, and it's sort of like an internal prison because emotionally it's there, and when you have that emotional lock, let's say lock and key, you don't want to focus on what to you is most important, but to her is not, as far as that sexual chemistry, as far as that, I mean, sex, you can look at sex as multiple ways. You can look at it as just a way of getting off, or kind of like you do, and kind of like, I do, like a sport, a serious sport. I mean, I got everything but like a Bill Belichick fucking tablet hoodie on the side going through my game film and how I pivoted left and pivoted right and did, that prison is there because you never want the other partner, especially with me, with it being in long term as it was, you never want that partner to be, oh yeah, it's all about sex, but it kind of is a big motherfucking deal, and getting that across to make it like, yes, the emotional aspect is there, and that's a big thing that they want, but no, the other thing isn't there, and getting the confidence to say it without coming off like a piece of shit pig or something, is there, and that's the prison aspect that I described. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can relate to it because I've been in those relationships and I did exactly the same thing. Like I just said, okay, well, it has to get better, and then you're a couple years deep, right? And you're like, wow, this is not getting better ever. And then you actually realize, well, this is why, right? And to go on to your piece about sexuality, you got to think about it, right? In terms of male female dynamics, right? Like, how important is sex to the relating of men and women? Like, if I were to sit back and if I had to, be honest with myself, right? Like, well, what how important is that percentage wise to a relationship? I'd probably say 80%.
I think the mental warfare is the problem. I think the physical. I think it's a battle between emotional and mental warfare. It's like you're with someone who you think's going to. It doesn't matter what it is. Name a topic.
Hmm.
And you think that person's going to get better and get better and get better, and you're just so convinced in your mind change is going to happen.
Yeah.
You go along for the ride, no matter if it's 12 years or 6 years or 3 years. You're going along for the ride because you're looking at what you perceive as what's the rainbow that's there. I see it. I just can't. Okay, it's coming, but it doesn't come, and it's just a prolonged prison, essentially.
Well, and that's why I was saying, I think, sex is so important in a relationship to, comprise, being worthy of like 80%. Because, if you think about relationships where, the sex has been absolutely mind-blowing, top-notch, even if other things aren't, somehow you find a way to tolerate them a lot easier.
Mhm.
But if the sex is really bad, that seems to be the one thing that over and over will cause strife, cause fights, cause so many problems. And if we really sit and we meta back and we look from the big picture, it's like, well, at the granular level, sex is the thing that's keeping, men and women from just, being buddies sitting on a couch watching football together, right? It's that defining thing that really separates us. So,
Let's. So, what was your longest relationship with what we kind of described? Was it? I mean, obviously, you were in the business. Was it with
mhm.
someone else who was in the business, or just a normal single
Yeah. But so how long did I suffer with this um, uh,
prison syndrome we discussed?
prison? We'll call it prison syndrome. 3 years. 3 years.
3 years. Okay,
Yeah.
I got a little bit more on you.
Okay.
I got more experience on you with that. See, I finally have something more
Yeah,
experience than you
there
on.
you go.
I'm not proud of it though.
The
Wow.
prison experience.
It is
Yeah,
prison
but it
experience.
sucks, man. I mean, 3 years, even with that, you're just like you're thinking, like, man, this has to get better. And like I said, it just never does.
Mhm. So let's kind of talk about um, some porn scenes kind of deal.
Okay, let's talk porno.
Does working in porn mean you can't enjoy porno or sex yourself?
Hmm. No. Um, I mean, I love sex, so I don't think porno has ever impacted that at all. I think in some ways, um, porno has made me appreciate it so much more because if I'm sitting there and it's just me, a girl, lights off, there's no camera, there's no crew, there's no lighting technician. I'm like, hallelujah, it's just me. So I think really from that perspective, um, those intimate, one-on-one moments, I actually appreciate a lot more than I would have, say, 20 years ago.
What's your ratio? I mean, you've done a lot of scenes.
Hmm.
Throw a number at me. The amount of scenes you think you've done. I know it's an estimate.
Ooh, wow. Hmm. I mean,
Jesus,
eh,
I wish I had that problem. Look at you. You're fucking thinking like it's a calculus nucleus question over here, and
well,
like,
'cause I'm trying to,
what are we
I'm
looking
trying
at?
to
Twenty
sit
eight
there and do.
hundred? I thought it
I mean,
was
it's tough to do the math, man. Because I
2800
mean,
scenes.
oh no, more. Um, let me see. Hold on, let's go. I mean, I think it would be 5,000-6,000. I
Six
don't know.
thousand scenes. Okay,
Yeah,
6,000 scenes.
it's tough because I remember, when because there was one year, actually, my very first year in the business, I was counting. Like I actually wrote down everything, right, for one year. And then when I did the world's luckiest jock, all my stats went out the window, and I never kept track after that, because in that movie I did. I don't know if I told you about this. It was the last of the great reverse gangbangs. So it was me and 101 women.
Yes, we talked about that,
Yeah,
and it's the most memorable part of our interview.
yeah.
I said,
So
"How did you fuck 101 women at once?" And everyone in the chat said he would need 100 more dicks to do that.
the worst thing was I went through 101 condoms. That was brutal. Oh God.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because this was actually we shot that beginning of 2000 or sometime in 2000, and that was still only 2 years really removed from the AIDS scare of 90. It was like 98, 97, 98. So you had some of these big companies, Vivid being one of them, that only shot with condoms. So because they were doing that, I had to use a new condom for every girl in the scene. So there was actually a member of the crew, and he was just on condom duty. Like he was just ripping over open new ones every time I needed a new one and just tossing me. And that's all he did. He was just condom duty.
That's an interesting job. Like, are you like? Is like, how do you apply for a job like that? Are you like an intern? You just trying to get in? Like, are you like a porn star in the making? Like a pro wrestler. Like you start off as the ring crew and you build a wrestling ring, and then eventually you get a chance to wrestle in the ring. Is that how it is with people like that? Like they kind of fetch stuff for you, lube and porn and
Yeah,
condoms, or
no, I mean the people that always end up working on the crew, I find seemingly, at least in the past, always came through word of mouth through someone they knew.
Mhm.
So nobody was ever posting a job. It was always, hey, I know this guy. It was a very closed circle sort of experience. So most people came in through someone that they knew. And I think part of that was just to keep everyone comfortable, right? Because if your buddy is working on a porn set and he says, hey, do you want to come help out? The assumption is that you have no problem with it, right? So they don't have to worry about vetting anybody's emotions or any problems. They're like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, you know what's up. Come on, get to work, et cetera, et cetera. So
I'd have a difficult job being a cameraman on a porn set. Does that
yeah,
make
what
sense
the,
to you? I mean, are there any funny stories you have in the middle of a scene? Something
oh,
going on around you that kind of should. I mean, there
oh
must be
man.
some hard ass cameramen fucking filming porn. Number
Well, I
one,
I got a story for you
go
then.
ahead.
This was God, this had to be, ooh, I don't know, 2000, 2001-ish. And at the time, I was doing all these movies for New Sensations, because they had this series called My Plaything, and it was essentially like uh, POV multi-chapter DVDs that were all based around one girl. This is just when DVD was just coming out as a medium, like as a format. And so they would always pick whoever was the most beautiful, hottest porn girl at the time, and they would do this whole movie about her. And they always hired me because the days were extremely long, and literally nobody could do them except me. So I was hired to do virtually everyone for the beginning. And I remember at one day we're shooting, and it was actually me and Sylvia Saint. And she's up against this massage table, I believe it was, bent over in doggy. We're working, and this is 20 years ago, so the cameras were massive compared to what they are today, right? And so the director, he's got this huge ass camera, and he's trying to get this really cool POV shot. So he gets this step ladder and like jerry rigs it on top of a coffee table. You can imagine that this is already like recipe for disaster. And because he wants to get this way over high shot so he can get it all POV. And I'm not sure what happened, but somehow the ladder fell forward and the cameraman fell on top of me, and I went balls deep in the girl's ass all at the same time.
Oh, it wasn't intended?
No. And let me preface this by saying that the director who fell on me was about 300 pounds.
Whoa.
He was a big boy. So
damn, man.
yeah. That was
his fault, not yours. Remember that. Remember that logic. His fault, not yours.
So, but luckily everybody was okay, and I mean, it actually worked out because I was on top of the girl. I took the brunt of all the damage, so she was fine. But,
so I got a great question from Awesome Beanie E. Here we go. Does he find personal relationships to be hard considering his line of work? I know we talked about that last show, but that's a great question.
Yeah. I would say generally not. And I say that mainly because whenever I've been in a personal relationship, I'm super upfront. So everybody knows going in, they know what I do. I've never hidden anything about my job, what I do for a living. So for me, it's really putting the ball in their court, right? Because they have the decision. They can choose, well, hey, I like this guy, I want to hang out with him, or I can't deal with it, and that's just how it is. But for most of my life, I would say once they've decided, hey, I want to do this, then there hasn't really been any problems because I'm upfront about everything. Like, they know I'm going to work, they know what I'm doing. There are no secrets. So
I just find it hard for the female aspect. I mean, if you're dating a civilian, dating a civilian, being okay with what you do kind of is a lot of de-escalation, I would say. No.
I don't know that I would say it's de-escalation.
You don't. I mean, you haven't gotten shit from women jealous over what you do. I mean, with
Well,
the women you have
but
sex with.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's for me, I've always been very, very upfront about, look, this is what I do for a living.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's like saying, well, we're on the boat. I'm the captain of the boat, and the boat is going this direction. You are welcome to jump on the boat, but don't grab the steering wheel. Like, the boat's going over here. So for me, like I said, because I've always been very, very upfront about, hey, this is how I make my money. This is how I do things. That's not changing, right? And that's always been framed in that way. It's like, well, this is not changing. So understand now that this is who I am and this is what I do. So if you're not comfortable, don't get on the boat. But if you're getting on the boat, don't try and grab the steering wheel.
So you go out of your way to lay down the foundation of this is how it's
Yeah.
going to be.
I've always been very, very direct in that sense.
There's a difference between listening and doing, though. I mean, how often did the girl have an issue with it?
The only times I ever saw issues, like with one girl I was dating, it was if she got drunk.
Okay.
Like if she drank some alcohol, then it's like, they're like, I'm gonna tell you how I really feel
Aren't they
right
honest
now.
though? When they, I mean, I'm not saying all of them. I don't want to be offensive to anybody in the chat, but you know, sometimes when male and females drink a little too much, they get a little too honest and kind of reveal too much that they wouldn't normally do sober. Is that kind
Yeah.
of a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's weird, like I don't drink alcohol, right? I gave that up completely this year. Actually, it was New Year's Eve. That was my last drink of alcohol.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, alcohol is one of those weird things that it, people are honest, but I don't even know if it's a good honesty. You know, it's like a sloppy honesty,
Brutal
right?
honesty. Like you got to be ready for some shit, and like
Yeah, and so then is it really honest if it's if you're, because I think in some ways you're 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 not still getting true honesty because
right,
you're tainting it with, it's like, well, there's the aggression, there's the alcohol, there's all these other things
right.
that are, tainting what the real experience is. So you're saying something truthful, but is it coming out exactly how you feel about it? Probably not.
It's good to kind of cushion the blow. Normally, when
You
people
know,
go, they're
well,
like,
well,
have a seat, let's talk, let's kind of lay this down. When it's in that situation, it's
yeah.
just like you're getting a blowjob, and all of a sudden she stops and says, "Let me tell you how I feel." What the fuck? It's like, wait a minute, like this isn't good. Like, what the
Why are
hell?
we fighting now? This is not
Exactly,
the time.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
the worst timing. Timing's the worst thing when that is in play. I
Oh,
think timing. Let's get back to the point. You mentioned POV earlier, and I really was
mhm.
fascinated about how I've never filmed myself fucking. Let's just say full disclosure. I've never filmed myself fucking.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. You and I don't have that in common. I've never filmed myself fucking. But I think there's a difference between people filming you fucking and you actually holding the camera first person view and pretty much doing and fucking, by the way. Walk me through the first time you were presented with that option, what you did to kind of either jump at it or hesitant, because focus is key, especially when it comes to this artwork. And all of a sudden now you got to worry about getting the best camera shots. You got to worry about, you got to focus up there and down there at the same time. Walk us through POV filming and what challenges you went through, if any.
Yeah, well, definitely the first time I was ever introduced to that was through my friend and you know I'd say porno mentor, Mike John. And this was I started working for him as soon as I moved to LA, and he was working for one of the biggest companies at the time, which was Anabolic Diabolic Video. And at the time, Mike was he was really on the forefront of developing the POV genre, so to speak. And so he would throw it as these little almost in betweeners or moments between within the scenes. And I remember he just gave it to me and gave me the camera, explained to me what I had to do. And he noticed right away because I was so focused on the framing and what was going on. And that was, I remember he told me later, he was looking at the footage. He was like, man, it was on a tripod. So after that, he just always gave me the camera because he knew I was so focused on it. But it's unique. And this is what a lot of people, guys specifically, would struggle with when they were doing it, is you're trying to ride that line because you're trying to stay so focused on what you're shooting, right? And then at the same time, in the background, you want to be focused on what you're feeling to maintain your heart on. And most guys always found a disconnect. They were either doing one or the other, and you would see that so often in the early 2000s when POV stuff was shot, because you'd have some guy that he was totally focused on maintaining his heart on, and the footage would look like, it would look like a San Francisco earthquake, right? Like there was no actual focus on the camera being steady, being framed properly, nothing. It was like total focus was on maintaining hard on. And then you'd have the opposite, where they'd be super focused on, the frame, everything would look good, and then they'd be woodless, right? Because all their thoughts or attention would be on making the picture as good as it could be, and zero focus on how they were feeling and maintaining their heart on. So it was interesting to really find that blend. And that also taught me a lot about just how your focused attention shifts things for you too, right? As far as you wanting to orgasm too quickly, I'll tell you, if you're sitting there, you got that camera in your hand and you're intensely focused on the framing, this, that, the other, the thought about coming uncontrollably goes away. You'd be shocked at what focused attention, when channeled properly, can do for your mind and do for yourself in the bedroom.
So I was gonna go one way, but you just went the other way. Coming too
Sure.
early. Talk about how death can delay ejaculation.
Oh, well, what I've noticed is that, when you go deep, deep, deep inside a woman, right near the cervix, I find it just seems to open up just a little bit, right? And it's like if you're deep and you're focused just on grinding against their clit, it's like there's this little space where the head of your dick just gets a little bit of reprieve, where that stimulation isn't as bad. And so if you can just focus on the grinding instead of the in and out, and just let the head of your dick just kind of hang out there, that can give you enough time to just get your shit together to go on for, another minute or another 45 seconds, or, however long it's going to be, until you have to pull another rabbit out of your trick bag to keep going on.
I always use the football analogy. Like, there's 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 5-minute rule when it comes to ejaculation. Can you
Yeah.
explain that? What that is?
Yeah, so that's something that I just noticed over time, right? And then when I was compiling everything for the book, I really started to analyze, well, what have I been doing for the last 22 years and why, right? Because I had a methodology, I had just never really explained it to anybody. And when I thought about it, I really saw that, when it came to lasting longer in the bedroom, you had to make it to what I call the 5-minute marker. And so, and I've seen this time and time and time again, throughout the 22 years of being on porno sets, because I would always be around, obviously, other actors, right? And so you would see, at times, inevitably, every actor would go through the scene where they start and they want to come in the first 30 seconds, right? Like there's no actor alive that hasn't gone through that, where, they, for whatever reason, they woke up on the wrong side of the bed and their penis is sensitive as hell, and they start the scene, and 30 seconds in, you're like, fuck. And now you're thinking, well, I got at least another, call it 45, 50 minutes to go. And 30 seconds in, I'm feeling it, right? So the 5-minute marker, what I found is how long you have to be at the sexual act for the desensitization of your penis to occur. So once you could make it to 5 minutes, it's like suddenly that was the allotted time that it took for you to really like grab the reins of your dick, so to speak, right? Like then at that point, it's like you sort of had beaten him into submission, and now it wasn't just, super crazy sensitive and ready to fire off at will. It's like, well, okay, now you kind of beaten the horse, right? So that's the thing that I talk to guys about. It's like, well, don't focus on lasting for 45 minutes. Focus on lasting for 5. Because if you get to 5 easily can become 10. 10 easily becomes 20.
It's the
But
one round at a time attitude. Whether you're boxing or the UFC, survive one round, next
yeah,
round. So
yeah,
one round, next round.
and that real round that you need to make it to is that 5 minutes. Because, like I said, when you hit 5 minutes approximately, that's when everything changes, and suddenly you can get way more control.
How
But
important
like,
is that mind control and focus?
well, it's super important because that's when you have that, that's what also gives you the confidence. You never have confidence beforehand, right? Confidence is a byproduct. So once you've started to wrangle him, then you get that thought in your mind, and like, okay, I got this, right? And then now you start to be more confident. You're like, yeah, okay, I can do this, and then the confidence starts that positive positive feedback loop, where more confidence, more blood flow, more confidence, right?
Kind of. Let's kind of shift back to porn.
Sure.
Have you ever had a partner that just couldn't deal? No, we already asked that question already. You have now you have fell in love with a co-star after a scene, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. I've had some girls that we just had that instant chemistry, so to speak, and then it was just like it was on. So
Now, one thing about Sancho is I like clean pussies. Walk us through a scene that you entered where you kind of had a little stranger danger when there might have been a little issue down below. Has that ever happened or no?
oh, like, okay, so describe what you mean exactly.
Um, let's just say I'm trying to figure out the analogy here. Um, let's just say you open up a Christmas present and it's broken. You're at the point where you're opening up the Christmas present and you just get slapped in the motherfucking face with
Oh,
a wolf and a waff. Have you ever
yeah.
been hit with a wolf and a waff
Oh,
before?
yes, yes,
And what do you
yes.
do with that? I mean, you're a professional. You've clearly indicated your abilities to like separate chemistry from professionalism. You've kind of.
Oh, yeah. Well,
How do you do it?
but there's multiple things, right? So, um, first of all, it's you have to assess, well, what what am I experiencing, right? Is it just something where it's uh, pH is off? Is it something where it's like, this might be something that requires medical attention? Or is it just, hey, this person doesn't take good care of themselves, right?
You got to be philosophical with everything you do. Everything you do, you have to
Well, no, because
analyze.
it's very true. Like, I remember, I'm not going to mention the girl, but she was young. She was 18 at the time, and and of course, I don't know how. I mean, I do get it from the perspective of, okay, you're 18, you've never come across any of this stuff before, so maybe you don't understand your body. But then the part of me was like, man, how did you not smell that? Like, um, and I remember, yeah, we were we were about to start this scene. Literally, I pulled the panties down and I was hit, and I just was like, whoa, okay. I was like, time. We call time, right? And but you got to frame everything the right way, right? Like, you can't go blaming somebody, nothing. I was just
You
like, hey,
can't pass out or anything like that or
no, no, no,
throw
no. I
up.
was just
Yeah.
like, hey, babe, I think you have a problem that you need to go see a doctor about.
You say it so professionally too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, because, like I said, it's like you have to give, especially a young girl. It's you have to give them, a, the benefit of the doubt. B, um, if you attack somebody
Right.
in a bad way, like, you can kiss any chemistry or any good, good vibes or karma that you've created, goodbye, right? And, I mean, I don't know if you read that chapter in my book, but I talk about that for guys, right? With anal sex, like, if
Yep.
you're at home and you're having sex with your missus and, she shits on you, you cannot freak out. Like, you can't.
I told you
You
about
have
my first anal sex experience. I told you about that last show.
Did you tell me again?
Remember,
Yeah, I don't
alcohol was
remember.
involved. Alcohol was heavily involved, and this was like fucking forever ago now. And do you remember that analogy we used about opening up the and kind of unpeeling? I'll leave it
Oh
at
yeah.
that. I'll leave it at that for the world's imagination. I've been petrified ever since. I've been fucking. I've been only one other time ever since then, and it was all right. It was all right. I mean, it was different. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's like it's like falling off a cliff, and then trying to climb that cliff again, and thinking you're safe to climb that cliff, but you realize that cliff just ain't worth it sometimes because there's other options. There's like an
Yeah.
escalator. There's an elevator, so you can kind of go those two options instead of the cliff.
Yeah.
I'm completely okay with the escalator and the elevator. I don't need the cliff. The cliff can just do whatever they wanted. The cliff can just stay there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I always tell people, be careful what you wish for when you're exploring the nether regions, right?
Well,
So
there needs to be prep done. There needs to be, tender loving care done when it comes to that. When it comes to a girl taking care of the necessities when it comes to anal.
well, yeah, there does need to be prep done ideally, but here's the thing. I've even seen like the most careful prep occasionally go awry,
Like a turd
right?
pop
And
out.
I think
Make
and
me
I think
feel better after my story. Can you make me feel better? Can you give me a scat story or something to make me feel like I'm not a freak right now or a creep? Have you ever had a turd pop out during anal sex?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
better now.
There was a couple times throughout my career. I remember one time was actually I believe it was uh for John Doe. Um I think it was one of his, because he used to shoot this series called Bring 'Em Young that was all like actual teenagers. And yeah, we were doing doggy and like pulled out, and then just like this just complete little, I mean, basically like a cocktail wiener just followed right out. We were just all stunned, like, what the fuck just happened? Like, how did a log just like fall out, and it's sitting there on the couch? Yep.
Good.
So
I feel better about myself now after my
yeah, yeah, yeah.
testimony.
Well, yeah.
Um, what's the weirdest porn set you've ever worked on? Like, it's just weird as shit. Like, what has been like? Have you ever had a set that you kind of like? I don't know if I want to do that. Just because characters, etc. What's the weirdest set you've ever performed on?
Weirdest set. Oh man, I gotta think about that. I mean, wow, probably one of the weirdest was the first one I was ever on, right? Those guys were fucking weird. And that was up in Canada. I still say those, for the people that I worked with, those guys were the most hardcore um out there. They were super hardcore. Um so yeah. Then after that, I would have to say like um and you got to put weird in context, but probably when I used to work in San Francisco for Kink, those guys, because just everything that they shoot and everything that they're all about. You go into a lot of things that aren't necessarily my cup of tea. Um, and just the cast of characters was definitely more, how do we say? on the edge.
Have you had to go to church after a scene or take like an extra shower because you just felt fucking dirty as hell
Oh,
wearing some costume or some shit?
no. There was one time. There's only actually one scene where I really was like, at the end of it, I thought to myself, "Man, we have this is too much." I had one scene like that, and it was strange because the girl in question, she was basically like co-directing this scene. And now, to be fair, she's very extreme, right? And because she used to work for like that company Kink a lot, and she liked like physical abuse stuff. So as I said, she was the co-director of this scene, and it was like it was basically like I don't even know if it's called a mini gangbang. I think it was like 8 guys and her. But man, I've never seen a woman take a beating like that. And it wasn't the guys, right? Like this is what she wanted. I mean, so, but just to me, I was like, man, this is way too much. This is way too much. I mean, at the point when because they were shooting near a pool table, and they pulled out the pool cues, and then she started getting beaten with pool cues. I mean,
Jesus.
this woman, oh, she had marks for at least 6 weeks.
Did you say beaten with pool cues?
Yes. Yes.
Holy shit.
And she loved it.
That's what's called a niche porn, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I stay away from like the fucking niche porn.
Well, and I mean, we don't even need to get into the, breaking down the psychology of that whole thing, right?
Some women love that though.
Well, and like I said, she does, right? But you're just in there. Like that was the only time I thought to myself, I said, "Yep, yeah, we're all going to hell for this one. This is, this is past my limits of what, of what I think should be done." And like I said, it's not like, it's not like this was being done to her. I mean, that was the part, right? Like this is what, this is what she wanted. And she was like, I want more, I want harder, I want this. I was like, oh my God. Like,
is there ever, I mean, do you institute a safe word prior?
Oh, well, for
any scene like that?
Usually the safe words, when they do safe words, it's typically when someone is tied up.
Okay.
Tied up or something of that nature, where they actually do need a safe word because they couldn't get out of something, right? Like in this, I don't know because it's so long ago, I can't remember. But because most people, they just call a break. They're just like, okay, stop. And everybody stops and gets water, takes a break, whatever. Like for most mainstream sets, there's not a safe word. It's just we just tell the girl, hey, you need something, just stop, because then they can just stop. They can just get up. They can just do whatever.
So
the safe words are usually always when someone is restrained and they can't stop. Like they can't make something ever stop, right? So therefore, there's a safe word so that okay.
So let's go over some funny porn movie names, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if
Let's do it.
Let's see if you had any play in any of these and see if you partaked in any of these. So I'm gonna blow. All right. So You've Got Mail, Everyone I Did Last Summer, The Booby Guard, Ocean 11 Inches, E.T. the Extra Testicle. Stop me when you're in one of these. Night of the Giving Head, The Sperminator, Edward Penis Hands, the. Hold on, let me blow this up for you so you can see it. No, is that easier? All right. So where did I end off?
You
The
you ended up
Bone,
on Edward Penis Hands.
the Bone Ranger, Goodwill Humping, a few hard men, Village of the Rams, Cliffbanger, Breast Side Story, Late in Manhattan, Saturday Night Beaver. Oh, there's gonna be so many screen names created from what I'm saying right now in the chat. Literally tomorrow night, I'm gonna see Any Given Cunt Day or Any Given Cum Day. I'm sorry, Any Given Cum Day, A Clockwork Orgy, Any Officer and a Gentleman, Gulp
Oh my
Fiction,
god.
Oklahoma, Beverly Hills 90210 Ho, The Bear Bitch Project.
I think it's possible Beverly Hills 90210 Ho. I'd have to see um
I'm gonna
because
Google that.
if that was a series, because I think it may have been a series by Stoney Curtis, I think.
Let me see. So, what characters? All right, let me, because all I'm seeing is a RuPaul show, which I don't think you have anything to do with that.
No.
So there's multiple scenes. Oh shit,
Yeah.
that's an actual scene. So if I click on that, it's gonna. Oh, was it done in 2001
Um,
with
well, that's what I mean. I
Brooke
think
Lane, Sophie Adams? I don't see you on here. Herschel Savage, Pat Mean, Lee
okay, maybe
Stone.
I'm not in it. I thought it was a series, meaning number one, number two, number three, number four.
Right.
Because I remember that, but maybe I wasn't in that.
So
Okay.
Pulp Friction, Titanic, Womb Raider, School of Cock. Let me kind of graze through them. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Gays,
Not me.
Throbbing Hood, Ode on Golden Blonde, Sisterhood of the Traveling Sluts, Romancing the Bone, King Dong, Phil Bill. Oh my God, that's so bad. That's so bad. Oh, Saurus Rump, Brazier to Eternity, Yank My Doodle, It's a Dandy. None of them, huh?
No,
None of
none
them.
of
That's
those.
not bad.
No,
That's
no.
not bad. That's not bad. All right, so let's go back to what was like the most challenging part of your book that you were kind of hesitant on. And everyone, October 13th, Barnes and Nobles, all where bookstores are sold. Let me give a quick plug. October 13th. Everybody get the book. Barnes and Noble, Amazon, ErikEverhard.com. There's so many options for you to get it. Unleash Your Sexual Superpowers, a porn star's guide to sexual mystery. So yeah. So kind of walk us through that question.
Okay, so what was the
What was the thing that you had on the editing room floor that you almost didn't put in that you did? Because like, I can understand why this is a new forte for you, and not only that, but for someone who some say has been exposed a lot in the industry because you're literally naked fucking on film.
Mhm.
This is a different form of exposure where you're just letting everything that's been inside out on paper and it's kind of showing the world who you are and your skills and you're passing on a lot of good advice and you're sharing your story a little bit in the meantime, so it's a little bit of a different platform for you, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think one of the things that I tried to really think about when I was writing the book was, what stories to put in there that obviously had some entertainment value, but also really hammered home the message from the lessons of the book, right? So I was trying not to throw in any stories that were just for entertainment purposes. So probably, if there was anything that I would have, sort of debated, would have been the story about the girl in the kiddie pool.
Okay, that one. Yeah,
But
that's actually a good
I
one.
thought that it was a very poignant story, and and for people just to understand, when you get to a certain level of mental mastery, like what you had to go through to get there. because that's one of the things I'm really noticing people are lacking today more and more, right? Is the mental fortitude, and I think that's in general. I think that's one of the things that especially guys are suffering from, because you look at the last like say 15 years and the rise of the Viagra, Cialis, like all this stuff, right? It's like, man, you look at some of these kids that are taking this stuff today. It blows my mind. I'm like, man, those drugs are for someone that's 65 to 80, not for someone that's 22. Like, what are you doing? Like, where is your head at? Because your body certainly doesn't need this stuff, right?
That's one of you're a sex coach, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Erections and sex pills is one of your biggest two challenges. What is kind of the quick synopsis when it comes to the mental warfare versus, an erect penis?
Well, it's can you deal with your flood of adrenaline? Can you quiet your mind? Can you focus on just the girl, just the feeling that's going on sexually, instead of thinking about, am I going to get it up? Is she going to like me? All these thoughts, because none of those thoughts serve you, and it's just the thoughts that are creating the problem. And so now you've got somebody that they're trying to take something that they're hoping is going to override their body,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not working on the thoughts. So they're going to take some some pill, right? And they're still having the thoughts in their head, and they're just hoping, well, I hope this pill works, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've seen in porno before where you have these guys that they get just hopped up on Viagra, and their dick is just limp as day, right? Because they're so consumed with the thoughts and the adrenaline that even all that the drugs in their system won't override it. It's like, well, you're clearly focusing on the wrong thing. Instead of adding all this dangerous crap to your body, how about just work on your mental state? Like why don't we just do that? Because if you weren't thinking all these useless thoughts, and you weren't having all this adrenaline, man, there'd be no problem.
So, big question is in the chat is where's the female porn star? So I think we got to kind of get that out there, because I kind of fucked up and say, well, we will have one in the middle where we thought we were.
Yes.
Can we kind
Yes.
of get them, out of the way for
Yeah.
people like GD
Well,
who is asking?
Well, sadly, how do I put this in a good way, right? Like, I'm trying to be kind of political.
You described it really good privately, but you can't really say that publicly. So that's why I was like, I was hesitant to
Yeah.
ask. But
Yeah.
what's a good word?
Let's just say often they are not as reliable as you would like them to be.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's, but again, comes with the territory, right?
We'll work on it.
Yeah. So I'm sorry that we didn't have somebody on. We had, I went down the list of, there was quite a few, and for one reason or another, they were unable to do it.
Did you ask her?
Didn't want to wake up early.
Did you ask her?
No. She's in America.
Is she?
That's Ava Adams. Mhm.
I mean, her eyes are. I mean, what did you have to do to get her to look like that? There's men in the chat right now that want to know what you did.
I
To
just,
look like that.
I just did my thing. It's, I mean, you fuck hard and strong, but I still, everybody shows me that meme, and who knows what was going on in that exact moment, because I'd have to dig up whichever video that is. Because her and me, I'm trying to think how many times I've worked with. I've worked with her a good handful, less than 10, but I think probably we worked together. I feel like probably like 8 or 9 times probably. And yeah, that meme comes up over and over and over. So that was
So,
good.
so it's safe to say everyone masturbates. So let's talk about masturbation, shall we?
Sure.
Your first experience as you were 12 when you first masturbated.
Yeah, about that.
Walk us through the how do I say the misconception of masturbating where you know it could be used as a training tool for sex, which you said in the book.
Yeah.
There's a like the way you would use masturbating at times for to get to train it for sex, essentially.
Well, because if you consciously um, use conscious masturbation, you can train your neurology because basically how how you practice is how you play, and it's the same thing with sex, right? Um, it always astounds me that guys they'll jerk off for like 2 minutes, right? Like just like do it just to get it done, right? Like let's get that orgasm out as fast as possible, and then they'll get a woman, at home, and they are shocked that their dick only lasts 2 minutes. I'm like, man, like what do you expect? You have trained that thing since birth that 2 minutes in it fires off, and it's very reliable you know so with conscious masturbation, it's like, well, you have to lay down all that neurology, lay down those myelin sheaths through deliberate practice. And the deliberate practice is when you're masturbating with a specific time allotment, and you're getting yourself there, you're holding yourself back, you are not allowing yourself to have the orgasm until you've hit whatever sort of time limit you're looking for, right? And then you can practice that over and over, and your body, it remembers. It's the same thing like you see all sorts of athletes, they practice something over and over and over, and the body just takes over. It becomes second nature. I mean, do you think LeBron is really thinking when he's throwing a free throw?
Right, but
Y-
to be fair, I don't think there's masturbating practice. When people masturbate, they want to get off. You
Yeah,
know.
but that's what I'm saying. You got to make it a practice. Like if that is, if you have a goal, right? Like you're like, okay, well, I want to consistently last, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's like, well, then you got to change the way you approach masturbation. It can't be just I want to get off. You have to make that conscious decision. Okay, well, I'm doing this for a purpose. Sure, at the end of the 25 minutes, I'll get off, but it's not the goal of doing it is not, I'm trying to get off as fast as possible. The goal is I'm trying to train my body so that I can be better sexually, and I can last as long as I want, right? So that's the difference. It's just, what is your goal, and why are you doing it? Because if you're just jerking off just to get it out of your body as fast as possible, well, that same exact thing is going to show up time and time again whenever there's a woman at your house, right? Like because you've trained it. It's like, well, you've trained your dick to, get up and fire off in, 1 minute 30 seconds or whatever it is, and it's going to be reliable. Trust me. You'd be shocked at how reliable your dick will be if you've treated it a certain way your whole life.
We kind of discussed this off air about the OnlyFans controversy. I didn't
Hmm.
want your thoughts until on air. What are your thoughts on what's going on with OnlyFans and the big controversy, and what do you think their future is?
Okay, well, let's unpack this one. Well, I mean, first of all, let's go. What do you think the controversy necessarily is?
Well, the sex worker exposure controversy that's out there with a famous actress going out there and raising as much as she did, and it caused a lot of resentment, caused a lot of. I mean, she didn't even get naked. Let's be blunt, and it raised a lot of controversy on the platform. And I guess can we say the safety of the platform in the sex worker? The sex worker thing is all. I mean, that's a 6 hour like discussion you and I can
Yeah.
have on that alone, so we can kind of gloss over it. Where, you know, I think, and I was going to get into that question about you know changing the perception of porn. It's why do people think porn's degrading to women, like demeaning to women, etc. Some look at that as like the OnlyFans has like that as well. People's
Mhm.
perception to this sex worker trade and all that stuff. What were your thoughts on that whole controversy? And do you think they can recover because you know they got pretty beat in the headlines a little bit, because of this?
Well, okay. So first, I want to go into my thoughts on OnlyFans in general, right? Because there's there's a lot to unpack there. You are talking about a new, let's call it, venue, right, for these women to make money that didn't, well, and I can't even say it didn't exist years ago. Like, and not to be controversial, but I will be anyways. You do have to understand, like, basically what OnlyFans is, right? It's like, well, it's it's for people essentially that were too lazy to make a website of their own, right? I mean, really, it's basically Instagram that you can monetize, but they've made it super easy because all these women, right? Like, you can't search on OnlyFans for something. Like, you have to drive the traffic there yourself. So it's sort of this amalgamation of technology of the times, where it's like you've got the rise of social media. So now there is traffic for these women to send someplace, but then also OnlyFans takes care of the billing. They take care of everything. So because I've only ever known a handful of women that ever actually did a website over the years, and like I said, mainly it's because they're too lazy. So OnlyFans takes care of all of that, makes it real easy for you to do everything. Now, I think a couple things. First of all, I think eventually, and this is just my prediction, right? Um, is that OnlyFans will kick off a lot of the porn people. That's just my prediction. And the reason I say that is, well, look at this controversy, right? So you have a mainstream actress, that decided she was going to do, her OnlyFans, whatever. And what was it, like, one day she made like $2 million or something? It was ridiculous.
She broke bank,
Yeah.
and it caused a lot of resentment because she broke bank.
Well,
And
but I mean, to me, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, these same people that'll cry about, this person did something unfair to me, were championing, um, you know other companies doing unfair things to video producers like myself 10 years ago.
mhm.
So I mean, it's, to me, there's no way where you can just look at it and say, well, that person's in the wrong. Hey,
Right. I,
if they did it, you could have done it. They
right.
happened to do it, and they made money, right?
Well, I know OnlyFans has been skyrocketing since COVID.
Yeah.
It's been skyrocketing. But the thing with Bella Thorne, she announced she'd be selling nudes on her OnlyFans at 200 a pop. More than 50,000 people subscribed to her page, reportedly making Thorne more than 2 million in a week. Sex workers were already annoyed that a celebrity worth an estimated 5 to 12 million was cashing in on the site they used to pay their rent. But the real problems began when tens of thousands of subscribers weren't sent the promised nudes, but closed pictures of Thorne's in skimpy lingerie, which at the end of the day, it does fall on her, but it also falls on the platform that she's on as well, where it's like, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't good. Why did that go? Why did that slide?
Yeah. Well, also, because I don't intimately know, um, and this we could research. Did she actually say nudes, or did she just imply that they were
Nudes,
going to be nudes?
nudes. She said nudes. That the word nudes was used, and that's
Okay.
why the 2 million in a week was made. Lingerie shows up.
Okay. Okay.
That pissed a lot of people off. And I'm not saying the scam word, but the scam word.
Yeah.
You're promising
Yeah.
something, which is fraud. You're promising something and you're just delivering. And I think it's possible that she got cold feet, but
It's
two two
possible.
mil a week. I mean,
It
2 mil a week.
means,
Come on.
but then also, it's like in the scammy way, it can be like, well, what's your definition of nude, right?
Mm,
I mean, and I mean also, God, in porno, the bait and switch. I
mm-hmm,
mean, like it just in mainstream porno has gone on since the dawn of time. I mean, you're like me, you're able to remember the old VHS boxes, right?
mm-hmm.
I mean, God, back in the day, you would have a girl on the front cover of a VHS box. She wasn't even in the movie.
Yeah, clickbait. That
Oh
was that
yeah,
was
I
the
mean,
birth of clickbait.
it's like clickbait happens all the time. So, not to say that she's in the right for what she did,
Right.
but it also points out to me something that I was thinking about, because there was a article in Rolling Stone that I read a couple months ago, and it really got me thinking about this OnlyFans thing, right? Because they were showing how the highest earning people on OnlyFans now were like gamers and celebrities. It's not porno anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So what started basically as sort of a quote unquote porno platform now is quickly transitioning into these different celebrities, pseudo celebrities using it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, and like I said, it's just my opinion, I think at some point, much like Instagram, they're going to start pulling down porno accounts,
Mm-hmm.
because you know the lure of that mainstream money is just too much, right? And it's like I've known just through Instagram, like porno girls that literally, I mean, they never post anything bad. I mean, they act like absolute saints on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've had their accounts, pulled down for no reason. And you have the Kim Kardashians that straight up nudes, right? Like, I mean, Kim can show her ass totally fine. Instagram is never getting rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to see the same thing with the OnlyFans. I think eventually you're going to have enough of a celebrity presence there that OnlyFans is going to say, well, okay, this celebrity, that celebrity, they're bringing in, you know, however many hundreds of thousands, millions a day.
Right.
Um, let's get rid of the porno. It's not making us look good.
So one of our biggest common things is follow the clit. The clit is our compass. Um, Walk us through the 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 fake orgasms. That's something that's brought up a lot. Women faking the orgasms. Kind of walk us through how you and me have a way with a woman to know if an orgasm is being faked or not.
Well, the biggest thing that I talk about is is, like I said, it was something I realized really early, which is that the clit is your compass. And you need to be paying attention to that, because that is going to tell you what you need to be doing in the sexual situation. Because most people, like, they've never actually paid attention to that fucking thing. It's like, if you pay attention, because
It's neglected almost. It's sad. Like a part of me cries inside.
yeah,
Like we do the Arms of
well,
an Angel song for the dogs, but for the clit, because
right,
it's a tragedy that the clit gets ignored, and the
well,
clit's the key. The clit
it's
is the
it's the
key.
key, and it's not only that it gets ignored, but just people don't understand it, right? Like, it's like if you're maybe you speak Arabic and you're talking to a guy who speaks Chinese, like, you just don't understand them, right? Um, so I think that's one of the disconnects, is guys don't actually understand it.
Uh-huh.
So it's like they go in there and they're like, well, I guess I'm just gonna lick it, right? And they just do it like it's like they're in, like it's a job, something they have to do, and like something magically is going to happen, right? Which of course doesn't, because they don't actually know what they're supposed to be paying attention to. And when you look at, you look basically when we're forming, in the womb, right? You're just a little fucking zygote. Well, they can't really tell the difference, or they can't tell the difference if it's going to be boy or girl, right? At some point, the same organs, one that's going to become the pussy, one that's going to become the dick, start forming, right? So when you step back and you say, okay, well, they're basically starting from the same place, right? It's just they're the same organ, just morphing based on, are we getting lots of testosterone, or are we getting lots of estrogen? And so when you actually look at the clit, I mean, it's like a little mini dick,
Mm.
and it does do certain things that are analogous to the penis. And one of those is it gets hard. And that is your key, because you are following the hardness. If that thing is not getting hard, right? What you're doing is not working. Period. It would just be like, imagine, some girl goes to suck your dick
Mm-hmm.
and it never gets hard, and you sit there saying, "Oh yeah, babe, you're doing a great job." Like, she's gonna look at it and be like, "Well, clearly I'm not, because it's not hard."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's a very um, clear, uh, like, visceral thing that you can look at and say, "Well, hey, this is working or it's not." Right? Like, the girl at least knows you are turned on, because you've got a heart on, right? Now the girls don't, they're not paying attention to the other cues, which guys do have, that would help girls as well. But for us as guys, it's like, man, you need to be paying attention to that clit, how hard it's getting, and you can feel it through your tongue, right? So you can feel as it gets harder, you can feel as it gets softer. And that then gives you a path to follow, because you want to keep making that thing harder and harder and harder, because that is what goes towards the erection. And the beautiful thing about that is, like, there's no faking that. Like, that is something you can follow, and you can easily find out where you're at with the woman, easily. So that's why a lot of times, you know, I'll tell guys, like, well, it's not difficult getting girls off. You just have to know what you're looking for. And the problem is, most guys don't know what they're looking for. But once you see it, then it's like, not difficult at all.
Walk us through what I call hot as fuck assumptions. When
What's that?
what I call hot as fuck assumptions, where really hot girl,
Hmm.
and you essentially assume because she's hot as fuck that she's gonna do all the work, and you just lay there. Walk us through the frustration of that, and what men need to do to really understand that, and fix that, and realize that, you know more needs to be done than just, hey, you're hot, I'm hot, let's fuck, or assuming because the girl's smoking hot that she's gonna do all the work. That's a problem.
Oh
The
yeah,
laziness.
the laziness. I mean, well, what guys really need to understand is that as the guy, you are the creator. Like, you are the one that's creating everything that's going to go on. Like, no woman's ever doing that. Like, there's just not. I mean, um, and you could even meta out and see that in society a lot of the times, right? It's like, girls show up to parties, they don't create them. And it's the same thing. It's like you know you are the one that has to lead and you know create the action that's going to be going on. Like, it's like dancing. The woman doesn't want to be in her masculine space. She doesn't want to have to lead. She wants a leader, and she wants to go along, right? And she wants to follow and just relax and enjoy. And so for guys, you really need to have that leadership role. Like, you need to be you need to be initiating everything sexually that's going to go on. Because, if you look at a girl like she's a Ferrari, right? Well, I mean, you need to drive it like one. You can't expect that you're going to be, just super average and get behind the seat of a Ferrari and drive it like Michael Schumacher. It's not going to happen. So the
Let me give a
biggest thing.
PSA to the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. You were saying what the biggest thing is?
Oh man, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
In one ear, out the other.
We dove into the oral sex part a little bit,
Mhm.
and the big thing is the G spot, the stimulation. Like the two finger. Guys, make sure your fucking nails are trimmed. Like
Ooh,
that is
yeah.
so fucking essential. And I've learned that a little, not bad, but like that can fuck the mood up completely if you're playing with that G spot, you're manipulating that G spot, and you're not properly skilled or even groomed as far as nails and all that stuff. Kind of walk us through the two finger approach with the G spot, the simulation,
Well, I mean, what you're going
stimulation.
to be doing essentially then, it's you're hooking your hand in, and you're using a come hither motion about, let's call it like an inch and a half on the upper portion of the vaginal wall, and you'll be able to feel almost like a little nub spot, like a little area. Then that's where you're going to be using your fingers and pushing. But to go back to your point, yeah, if you've got long and or sharp nails, oof, I mean, I've known many women just doing girl scenes that have been, cut by other women with nails, and even me, just just as an actor, I cannot tell you how many times I've been sliced by a rogue nail, where they cut me open. Especially if you get a girl where she's got long nails and she's playing with her clit, and then her
Hmm.
nails just cut right across your dick. Oof.
So there's multiple ways the tongue can work with eating pussy. Um, there's the cross T technique.
Mm-hmm.
There is kind of, what, kind of walk us through that one first, and then we'll go down to the other two or three.
Yeah. So there's three main techniques, two that are based on the cross T, and one that's not. And essentially, the cross T technique is a technique that I developed just in my experimentation, and you are using fast tongue motions that are a combination of vertical and horizontal. So it's basically making a T formation, and it's probably at about a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 ratio, um, and that is what is creating the stimulation across the clit, because this way you're not only stimulating vertically, but also you're breaking it up. Like I said, it's about every 3 to 4 strokes, you're breaking it up with that horizontal one. And what I've found is that just keeps the woman from getting too sensitized to the same stimuli. So it keeps the orgasm building and keeps everything moving forward. And so that's the first technique, and you're doing that with the pointed tongue, because the pointed tongue, it's very much like a scalpel,
Right.
right? When your tongue is pointed, you can create the most force, so you can create the most speed and pressure, right? And you can do it to very specific parts, like, maybe it's directly the very bottom part of her clit that is where the stimulation is needed. Maybe it's the top, maybe it's one of the sides, right? And with the pointed tongue, you can get in there, like I said, just like a scalpel, and hit the exact little part that is the most sensitive. Because it's the same thing with guys. Like, you could have a girl that, she gives you a blowjob from a certain angle, and it just doesn't feel as good as from another angle, right? And it can change based on the girl, her jaw structure, her mouth, and some of it is just universal, right? Just the way your dick feels better, a blowjob from a specific angle. So it's the same thing that you're looking at from the perspective when you're eating the pussy. It's like, well, girl A, she might like where the tip of your tongue is on point A of her clit. Girl B might want it on point B. And you're going to know that by paying attention to how hard the clit is getting and what areas are creating that. Because then now you've got a map, and you can say, okay, well, when I do the technique at this part of the clit, that's where I'm getting the reaction that I'm looking for. So then you start going down that rabbit hole, and that's the area that you start spending more attention on. And then you're noticing, well, what's happening, right? Like, is the clit getting harder? Is it getting softer? Like, because it's eventually be building, and it's gonna get harder. And that's when you're following that down, that's how you're gonna push her over to the orgasm.
Feeling the emotions is huge when you're in there. Feeling the emotion, feeling feedback is fucking huge. Don't, talk the whole fucking time. Sometimes it is want you to shut the fuck up and work, right?
Yeah.
But like the occasional, gasping up for air for feedback's always key. But it's more of the moistness and what you're feeling and what what's there is what your feedback is, because like it's right there for you. Like it's right there.
Oh yeah. Well, your feedback should be basically, number one, it's, well, okay, how hard is the clit getting, right? Then it's, how wet is the pussy getting? Then, if your fingers are inside, you might be able to feel, as she's getting closer to the orgasm, the constriction of the vaginal. Then you've also got the audible, right? So then you've got, well, what noise is she making? How is her
Body moving,
breath,
vibrating.
yeah, how's her body vibrating? How is the shortness of her breaths coming? All, and so you're taking all of this stimuli and processing it in real time to say, okay, is what I'm doing working? Is there something that I need to change or alter, right? And it's just, you're taking it in real time feedback.
I can't stress enough, guys. It's not the same for every girl. You can't use the same playbook on every girl. Their vaginas are different.
All different.
Everything is just different. Just because you were good at doing something for X amount of years doesn't mean when you jump out of that you can have the confidence you believe to be good at eating pussy, because it's different for every girl. and you have to have that repertoire, whether it's the flat tongue or I like to do the alphabet, kind of deal, spelling the name, etc. That keeps me focused and drives the girl nuts.
Mhm.
It's different, and you got to try. It's kind of like a menu, and you got to, give the girl the options that are on the menu and see what works for the best results.
Yeah, but the principles don't change. So the how you're going to get there, that that's individual, but the principles never change, right? So that's kind of the bigger piece. It's that's why I say, well, you're following the clit because that's a principle. Like that's never changing. You can use technique X, Y, Z, and one of those techniques might work and another one might not, but you're still paying attention to the clit, and that's the big picture that's going to tell you that what you're doing is working or it's not. And then you have to choose the tool to work with, and that's going to be individual, and you're going to be figuring that out, like I said, in real time, what works and what doesn't. Because one technique that you used with your ex-girlfriend, you might be in bed with this girl and man, she's not interested in that technique. Like she needs another one. So you go into the toolbox, you say, okay, well, let me try this one. But like I said, from the principle standpoint, you're still paying attention to the clit. Like that principally never changes.
Well, that's why the pointed tongue technique's my favorite because
Mhm.
you're kind of like a sniper. You're kind of zoomed in on your target. You're focused on your target, and you're in the game. And it's direct contact. But sometimes direct isn't the best. Sometimes working around it, then getting back to it, is key. Sometimes.
Yeah, and well, something that I noticed too, like where I find the flat tongue technique is useful, is if you run into one of those girls that is hyper, hyper, hyper sensitive with her clit, then because the flat tongue doesn't give any specific pressure to any one area, I find that can be more useful with those girls because
Mm-hmm.
then it's almost like a really light touch. And, by going in with a pointed tongue, even if you're going light, it's still, for some of them, it's too much pressure, and they get ticklish. They're like, hee hee hee. They they have a tough time just enjoying the sensations because just a little too much sensation and it goes into where it makes them feel ticklish.
We got a question in the chat. We kind of got to give love on the other way.
Yeah.
Finding the G spot for a guy. There's rumors on the street of where it could be. Um, and kind of talk us through the whole. I consider it the mystique mystery of finding a guy's G spot.
Mm, I don't know that there is a, quote unquote G spot for guys. Um, I think, definitely, for guys, usually, right under the right under the very head of your dick is often for a lot of guys the most sensitive area. Um, but as to there being a quote unquote G spot area, eh, I don't see it. That's just my opinion after what I've been through the last 22 years. Um, but I mean, if there's going to be one area, in my opinion, that would be more sensitive, it'd be right under the head on the backside of your dick. That's probably the most sensitive area. But again, um, that can be stimulation. There needs to be light and specific by the woman. And that's one of the things I don't understand. And obviously they don't know the experience of being a man, but I mean some women, I mean Jesus, it's like they treat your dick like it's not attached to your body. I think they see that it's an external organ and they think like it's as tough as like your arm. they just want to they just want to scrape and hit that thing and just yank on it with all their might. It's like, God, be nice to it.
Well, I think it's both ways. I mean, you gotta. I mean, I know every guy says, "Yeah, I want to let the shit fucked out of me by a girl," but there's a point, There's a point where it's like, it's gotta be a little skilled. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
is it too much? Is there such thing as too much when it comes to kind of wild and crazy, kind of like demented sex thing? I know you described it earlier with a girl you performed with. Is that kind of a thing where it
Well, I
needs, you know?
I think I think everything can hit a level where it becomes too much, right? Like, and again, now we're dealing with, too much for whom, right? Because now it becomes very individual. So you have to assess, and it's really only through learning and through experience you assess. Well, what is it that you actually like? And I think that, when you really step back, I mean, that's for everybody. That's sort of their sexual journey, right? It's determining, well, what is it that you actually like? Because I think most people don't know. I venture a lot of people don't actually know. Like, if you really ask them what do they like in sex, could they give you very specific answers? I don't think so. I think
A
they'll
lot
be
of
a lot of generic because they haven't experienced them.
There's a lot of sexual techniques
Yeah,
that you went over in the book. Again, October 13th. We're going to be wrapping up soon because you've been very generous with your time.
you're
We went
welcome.
by like 10 minutes, it feels like. Um, Unleash Your Sexual Superpowers, a porn-sized guide to sexual mastery, October 13th, Barnes & Nobles, where books and stores are sold, Amazon as well. Um, I want to kind of get into, we have a lot of options we can get into. Do you want to open up the panel for like a minute or two and see if any ladies
Sure.
want to come up? Yeah, let me see that. Let me see if Joan or someone else wants to come up. If they have any direct questions for Erik. I know there's a lot of women in the chat right now that are going crazy. I warned you, ladies, this was going to happen with me and Erik again. I warned you. You were warned all week. All week you were warned. What is the number one misconception when it comes to sex, in your opinion?
Number one misconception. Um, hmm, it's interesting. Well, I mean, there's a couple different ones, right? Like, I mean, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that, love will conquer all, which which isn't true in the sense of, you can love somebody, you can be totally into them, and because sex is, sex, it touches so many different areas, right? Like, it touches, spirituality, emotionality, your mentality, and physicality. But physicality is a very much a big part of it, right? So, and a lot of people forget that. So, they get this misconception that, well, if I've got this connection and I've got this love for this person, that the sex is automatically going to be good. And, well, I agree that, connection, intimacy can make sex better if you don't have, if you're not mechanically doing things correctly, then you're still not going to have great sex because there is that physical component, right? Like, in this Newtonian existence, there's no immaculate conception, right? So it's like you have to get the pieces moving correctly if you're going to have that orgasm. It's not like you're just going to sit there and just be like, I want an orgasm now, and the guy's going to do nothing and it's just going to happen. So that, I would say, is one of the biggest misconceptions, is that they think just being into somebody, or just being in love with somebody is enough, and it's one part, but it is not enough. Like, you need the actual physical part to go good as well.
Talk about the vibrator and why men shouldn't be as intimidated by that vibrator as they are.
Oh, well, that was something that I really noticed. Um, Vibrators, when you start looking at why women use them, right, and how they use them, there's a lot of lessons that vibrators can teach us, right? Because you look at a vibrator when a woman uses it, and the vibrator is doing three principal things. And if you can take those principles and apply them to especially to your pussy eating, you're golden, right? And it's like, when you look at any woman with a vibrator, especially if she gets one of those, super powerful plug in the wall Hitachi wands, it's like, well, first of all, where do they put it? Straight to the clit. Like there's no woman with a Hitachi that's, playing around anywhere else. Like they know where it's going to go, and they're going straight to the clit, right? And it's, that's where it's staying. So they're not moving it around. They're not, tongue fucking their vagina with it or anything. Like they're just like, nope, it's on the clit. There we go. We're good. And it just stays. So that's number one. Number two, when you look at the pulsations that a vibrator makes, it's very rhythmic and very consistent, right? Which is the same thing you need to be when you're pleasing a woman. Because, imagine if you get in there with a woman and you do, like, let's say like you're doing super long little, slow licks, and then you just go berserker, like fasting, like the fastest licking ever. And then out of the blue, you're back to like slow, like there's no consistency. There's no rhythmic. You're all over the place. You need to have the same speed, the same rhythm, and that is what's going to build up towards the orgasm. And when you look at women with their vibrators, it's like it's got the setting, whatever setting they choose it to be on, whether it's medium, low, high, but then it's just consistently delivering that pulsation, right? And they're just building up the orgasm, because the orgasm comes like a wave, and then it pushes them over. That's number two. And then number three, and this is so key, they never stop. Ever. Right? That fucking thing is plugged in the wall. They put it on the clit. Doesn't stop. Jaw doesn't get sore. It doesn't come up asking for water, this, that, the other. Keeps going. And that is the other thing you need to really pay attention to, right? Like you can't get close and then just stop, or your tongue hurts, or whatever myriad of excuses you got. Like you just gotta suck it up and push through that shit, right? Because the thing is, you could have a girl really close to an orgasm. You decide you need a glass of water, you need this, you need to scratch your nose, I don't know, you need to come up for air. Then she goes from hitting that peak where she was just about there to she's starting from zero. And then maybe it's going to take another 5 minutes to build her back up, right? And you do that a couple times, and then all you build is frustration. And I mean, even as guys, we have totally felt that. Like I've had girls that they'll be close to getting me off the blowjob, and then they'll adjust something, and I'm back to square one, right? And so then, 5 minutes later, I'm close again. Oh, they adjust something else. I'm back to square one. Everybody will hit a limit where it just turns to frustration, and then you're just like, I'm not, this is never going to happen, right? So with guys, when you're eating pussy, when you're doing that, like you can't stop. And like I said, those are the three big takeaways that you can learn from vibrators, and why women love them, and why they're so effective.
All right, for those who have dreamed about having a quickie with Erik Everhard, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to ask a question or a comment. We're going to start with No Name. No Name, don't make me regret this. Are you on air? Are you here? 2 minutes.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
You have a question or a comment? Go ahead.
Oh, has he heard of Chatterbait?
Chatterbait. Have you heard of Chatterbait?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying that out. Here I am, mid-50s.
Mid-50s,
Nice.
trying out
And I'm
Chatterbait.
gonna, and like my first month, I made almost $1,000.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I picked up close to 7,000 followers, and I haven't really been at it much recently. Let's see, where do I go after? I mean,
You shoot low, or is
eventually
it
I'll
just
get
me?
banned.
Where do you go? What do you mean? Say that one more time.
Chatterbait bans a lot of people. I mean, I haven't even broadcast in a month, and I'm watching my follower count go down. So I know, what, 50 people got banned out of the 7,000 I had.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I would focus on then is I would focus on driving traffic, right? So I would be focused on other venues where, like Instagram, like Twitter, especially Twitter. Twitter's very good because right now, Twitter they don't really ban people that put questionable content up. Instagram will ban you immediately, but Twitter you can get away with a lot. So you use that platform to then send people to your chat room or whatever platform that you're using, right? So you're basically sending followers of your own in that sense, so that
You
they're
got
not being
feedback
banned.
issue, no name. I was hearing an ear interference. I didn't know where the hell it was coming from. It's her. Are you all set with your like question or comment?
Oh, yep, that's fine, thanks. I'm sorry about the buzz. I don't know what's wrong this time.
You're good. You're awesome. You know that. Thanks for
Yeah,
your
thank you
question
very
and
much.
comment. Thanks for calling into Sex Talk with Erik and Sancho. Thank you. There you go. She has her camera on now. There you go. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to bring up Joni Rotten. Hello, Joni Rotten. Do you have any question or comment for Mr. Erik or Mr. Sancho?
Geez, I need a cigar after that. Fuck a cigarette, man. Erik, you're adorable.
Thank you.
I've seen you in anything.
Don't make me turn my camera on. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is my real me. I did that just for you. Let's see. I don't know if I have any questions. That was really good. I do have a personal question, but I don't know.
Well, first answer my question. Is there going to be a 5-hour stream tomorrow dedicated to this show?
Would you like there to be?
If it's
Will
good.
you come hang out with me tomorrow? Maybe we
So
can
Erik,
come back.
last week I had some doctors on. I had a psychologist, and the chat was pretty bumping. And it was pretty bumping, and it turned into like a 5-hour after show on Joan's channel about the doctor and the therapist and all that. I'm guessing,
nice.
Joan, tonight's a little different, correct?
Yeah, well, also next time that happens, I won't leave my stream. That was the problem. Because I had to leave to go have soccer with my wee one, and everyone lost their shit. And
So how do we do tonight? A, and then B, let's get that question. This is after dark, no judgment.
Yeah, so, okay. So I really enjoyed listening to you, I'm not going to lie. This kind of stuff intrigues me. I study human behavior anyway, and as a big old perv, as most people in here know, it's right up my alley. So I guess one of my things would be when you, what would be your advice for how, let's see. Okay, I'll just tell you. I have a condition that causes me to faint when I orgasm. So who I have sex with is very important, right? I have to have a lot of trust. And so I guess, like, would there be advice on, or not advice, I'm just thinking when you're with people, like in your business, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people around, so you're trusting them because there's people there, you have backup.
Yeah.
So how do you put that into like your personal, if you're a little bit of a freak and you want to be freaky, you know, how do you do that safely? I guess I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. Asking for a friend. Well, you know, one of the things that at least that I've done, right, when it comes to sex, especially when it comes to that part of building trust, is, you know, you build it step by step, right? So you may not, like, for example, maybe you're into bondage, but you're like, well, I don't know if on the first date I want this person tying me up, because what if they're psycho or whatever, right? So for me, it's like those first sexual experiences or whatever, you're slowly adding new things to the mix so that you get a sense of, well, okay, first of all, how do they react, so that you don't necessarily completely scare them off. And then second, so you can get a sense just of their personality when it comes to sex and what kind of stuff they're into. And so that then you can get that feeling of safety, because I agree, one of the benefits about the porno business is, you're going on set and you may not know this person at all, but because you're in this container where there's the cameraman, there's the lighting techs, there's all these people that they are going to keep you safe, right? And that's actually one of the reasons why, because over the years, there have been a lot of girls that came into the business because they wanted to fulfill certain sexual fantasies, and they wanted to fulfill them in the safest way possible. So I knew some girls that, they were just, swingers, and they would come into the business for, maybe even just a couple of months. And it was just that they wanted to, they wanted to do like a gangbang. They wanted to do these things that they really saw no way of doing in the real world in a real safe, professional manner. Right. So then they're like, hey, you know what? I got this fantasy. I want it to be done by professionals. I want to know that, the guys are all going to be hard. I'm going to have fun. I want to know that I can trust. So I'll go this route. Does that answer your question at all?
Absolutely. Now you've made me think of another one.
Oh, okay.
So, and then I'll shut up there, Sancho. I don't want to take up too much time, but so with that, no, that's a really good point, because a lot of people have fantasies, and there's a difference when it's just one-on-one, because once you get in those positions, you really don't have any more control, regardless of safe words. Let's just be real here. Yeah. So, but you have made me think of some other things. So if you are with a guy and he's not quite respecting some of the, hey, not that, right? And he pushes, I'll just give you an example. Okay. Most average guy always wants to go to the ass. Clearly, I'm not into the ass. Don't touch the ass, but they still, the fingers slide, the dick rubs. I mean, it does things. So how do you say, literally, I will kick you in the face and leave in my car if you touch this area, without really saying that?
Is that an average guy question or a porn star question? You have an average guy on the left and a porn star on the right.
Touche.
Well, here's one of the things, and I know I've talked about this before, and this really does illustrate that point. Like, when I the lens that I look through when I look at the lens of consent is most consent is often implicit, not explicit, right? Because it's the implicity of it that keeps things horny and kind of exciting, right? So in that instance, though, when you have a hard no, that's the time where you do have to be explicit, because if there isn't that hard no, as guys, we'll keep trying, because then it's a maybe, right? Because we are conditioned that way, and for better or worse, that's kind of how sex does get conditioned, right? So it's real simple. You just you just have to be firm and just be like no, right? And any guy that really understands body language, tone, everything. Like when you get that hard no, like they always like because any guy that is paying attention understands a no that is like, well, maybe
Optional,
try
open.
again,
Yeah.
and there's the no, I will fucking kill you if you do that, right? So with that, you just want to make that part known, because otherwise, as guys, we will try again because we're unsure, right? But a very strong, firm no, we never go again. We're like, nope, okay.
Hypothetically speaking, how hard is the foot being put down, and what kind of no is it? Because there absolutely is two kind of no's. If it's absolutely foot down no, the subject should be left alone. Because that's how you fuck shit up. That's how you fuck the mood up. Because once you start pushing a certain anal, whatever it could be, it makes the girl think, well, the pussy's not like enough for you. Like, why are you worried about that so much? And you gotta be careful when you have a woman that vulnerable and ready to go, that don't push a fucking subject that's been already shot down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 100%, right? So that's why I would say when it comes up, you just give a real firm no, like, and just don't leave any ambiguity to it, and then that should be enough. They just do have to understand that it is real, it is firm, it is not like, well, maybe after another drink. It's like, no, don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
We're all good.
Yeah, because we hear well, you just haven't had it done right, or you haven't had the right, you know what they tell us.
No, and there is some truth to that, but it doesn't mean that you want to experience the truth that evening, right?
Fair enough.
I talk about it in my book. I mean, there is a protocol that I've developed over 22 years of having to engage in anal sex and make it as quote unquote easy and enjoyable as possible for a woman. But most guys, they are not going through that process at all. I mean, I can't tell you how many times to begin a scene, I spend between 10 and 15 minutes just prepping the girl's ass. Just prepping it to be entered.
That sounds like when you're about to deliver the baby, the midwife starts to prepare the vagina to stretch open.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what. And
I was going to use the cookie dough analogy, Joe, and you didn't get that graphic, but the cookie dough analogy is kind of forming the cookie dough the way you want it. But yeah, I mean, it's you can't just ask for something without working for it. You can't just ask for something without doing the physical foreplay prep to it as well. You just can't be like, hey, can I go in there? Like, you have to, with your hands and with your tongue and with whatever, with your voice, whatever it may be, work it to the point where the comfortability and the looseness is there, and the prep is put into the process to the point where it's a lot easier of a yes than it is a fuck no. If you're just straight up asking, it's a fuck no. But if you put the work in and you put the 3/4 in and you're at the 4th quarter, you might get a better answer, Eric. No?
Yeah, exactly. And what people don't realize that watch porno is, I'll spend 10, 15 minutes opening the girl's ass, then we hit record and I'm in 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. What they don't realize is the last, 10 minutes I went, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, letting her breathe, going to the point where I'd hit the resistance. I sit there, I wait 1 minute, I let her asshole relax, then I push forward another, 5 centimeters, I let it relax. Like, I go through that whole process with them. So of course, when it's action time, yeah, does it go in 10, 15 seconds? Sure. But I spend 15 minutes getting it in there in the first place. And that protocol is what these guys would need to do for you. And the problem is, most of them, they're horny. They just want to get it in that 15 seconds. And that's where you're going to hit the wall and you're going to say, fuck no, this fucking hurts.
Right. Well, Eric, that's because I think you just hit on something really interesting, because as we have so many kids watching porn is it's not your dad's magazine under the mattress like it was when we were kids, or a little VHS tape. I can flip up in my phone right now. I got Pornhub.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere now.
But so this is, I think, one of the problems that we're facing, young people.
Do you have
today.
a question last? Like, I don't want to cut you off, but we got
No.
like you went 2 minutes. Like, you know,
Oh, you can cut me off, Sam.
No, like, do you have a question or a comment last, like, before I let you go?
Oh, just that. I think that's important, Eric, that you're sharing things like that. I think I'm going to get my hubby your book for Christmas. And thanks for letting me have on. I just wanted to say I think that's good that he's mentioning this, because a lot of kids don't know this, right? It's important to know. You don't just walk in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's people need to understand that porno is a performance art in that sense, and that it's not exactly reality. Mm-hmm. And so when that gets confused, I think that's where people do things that they see mm-hmm. on screen, and they don't realize there's a reason we're doing them, and it may not be because they feel good. It may be because it's visually interesting for the consumer that's going to ultimately buy our product.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joan, for that. Beanie had a question. Has Erik had sex with men, or has he done gangbangs with men? If so, is he bisexual, or is it just for the pornos? Question.
No, I've never had sex with men. I am not bisexual. So yeah, no. And then in reference to the gangbangs, it's we're all guys, and it's just with the girl. We're not interacting with each other. So yeah, that's that.
Talk about I think it was a really interesting story, the 21 ways to her anus. That's kind of a good way to wrap up. 21 ways to her anus question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh man, that was great. I mean, it was just that scene in question. We got on set that day, and the girl had a little challenge issued for me, and it was how many orgasms she had at a time, right? And she gave me the number, and
what was the number?
I believe the number was oh God, I can't even remember now that I think about it. I think it might have been like 15, or I can't remember.
How long though? I think that's important, is how long 15 or orgasms.
Oh, I mean, how long was each one?
Right, no, like what?
Or how long did it take?
3-4 hours here? Are we talking?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, when we did that scene, which was 21, I think we probably spent a good, it was like 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. Probably 2 of actual filming time. But it became this little contest, right? So I would get her off, and we just, because at some point, we got the number so high that I was like, okay, well, like, I'm going for the record. And so that became our little joke between us, and we eventually got to 21. So, and then we're like, okay, that's good. We did it.
Is it like a friendly? I mean, it's an awesome competition. I think every guy in
it was.
attitude.
I mean, Hermie, we were really good friends, and yeah, it was a very friendly competition. At the same time, she wanted to see if I could do it, right? So, and I respond good to competition like that. I remember there was a gangbang once that I was doing for Anabolic. And this girl said I could take her home if I could do 5 cum shots in the gangbang, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing it, right? And meanwhile, we're talking, this is the end of the scene, right? So basically, I pulled out 5 cum shots in 15 minutes.
Damn.
Probably 20 minutes. Oh yeah.
Damn.
But let me
Please
preface this by saying that. The last ones were like, it's like it's like this little spit coming out, right? I mean, it was there, but I mean,
Right.
it was,
Little discharge because there's barely any
yeah, it
gas
was
in the
like a little
tank left.
discharge. And I remember Mr. Marcus at the time, because I was going for it again. And I mean, literally, like I am so focused, right? And I am jerking my dick. And I mean, it literally looks like I'm going to have a brain aneurysm because I am like, I have to do this, right? And he just looks at me like, he just goes, dog, just let it go, man. Oh man, but I was so focused because I was like, man, that girl issued that challenge and so I pulled it off.
You're like a
But
cyborg when that happens, huh?
yeah,
You're an
but
absolute cyborg.
but you really, when you're doing stuff like that, like, there's you're pushing your body as far as it'll go,
Right.
right? Like I really was willing it to happen. But it also, it does show you how much you can do with your mind. I mean, it's like, I think it's like anything in life. You look at like a guy like David Goggins, where it's like, man, that guy's all mindset.
Right.
Just pushing his body to obscene levels just because he refuses to give up. And sexually, it's the same thing too.
I have like 2 or 3 more questions if that's okay.
Yeah. Fire away.
Walk us through your first gangbang. You being a competitive guy, I kind of look at it like Tom Brady's the only quarterback. He wants to be the best at the best. What kind of, competitive juices were flowing, so to speak, during your first gangbang? How many were involved in it? Kind of walk us through your memory of the first time competitive Erik puts on his face paint, his war paint, and he's ready to go to town like a cyborg. But we got a problem here. We got other motherfucking dudes in this room.
Yeah.
How do you stand out? How are you going to be the most memorable one out of a group of people?
Well, for me, like I remember, my first scene when I went down to Los Angeles. First scene was a gangbang, and I didn't. There was a couple things that I remember about that. One, I wasn't afraid to do the dirty work, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna make an impression. And I didn't know enough about the ins and outs of, LA professional porno, because I'd started up in Canada, but it was very, very amateur hour. And here it was like, now I was on set with the biggest names in the world, right? Like that were all just showing up. And so for me, it was just, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do everything. And whatever is the job that nobody wants to do, that's what I'm doing, right? I mean, that's where I started out anchoring. And for those that don't know, we refer to the anchor position in a DP. It's the guy that's laying on the ground, right? And I ended up doing that my whole career because, I was good at it and nobody wants to do that, right? Because you got the weight of the girl, the other guys, you're laying on whatever, shitty floor with whatever sticking in your back. Like it's just, most guys will fail to keep a hard on in that position, and I could do it, right? And so I was like, okay, like what else you got, right? So for me, standing out was really just pushing the limits and seeing, well, okay, whatever the job is that either people are shying away from or they're not going to do, that's what I'm going to do to show that I can do anything here, right? And that's how it ended up playing out. And also, you can't be shy. Like when you're in one of those situations, it is very dog eat dog, especially because like when you go in one of those and it's the best guys in the world, I mean, you gotta fight for your screen time. Like you're literally like pushing people out of the way, like elbowing. And the thing, especially back then, that would really separate it was were you ready, right? Because there would be guys, they'd kind of be trying to jockey for position, but if they didn't have a hard dick, it was like back of the line, right? So your ability to stay hard also prefaced your ability to jockey people out of the way, because if somebody wasn't hard and you were, you could easily just be like, hey man, get the fuck out, I'm in. Right? Get yourself together, get yourself ready. So yeah.
Competitive question between you and I.
Sure.
You ready? We talked about oral. What's the longest you went down on a girl? I'm about 3 hours, a little over 3 hours. Did I have you beat?
Yeah,
Please
you
tell me I have you
do.
beat. Oh my God, I'm so fucking happy right now.
Long. I would say, like, before something else starts, I'd say probably longest has been like half hour.
Half hour?
Yeah.
You were like the clitoris stimulation king to me. Like, literally the clitoris, like, you focus on oral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a half hour?
Yeah.
No, keep in mind, there's a little break.
Then we go back to it later. Like when I've always looked at sex, and it's interesting because there was something I commented on a couple weeks ago where I said, you have this concept of foreplay and sex, and I'm like, man, to me it's all sex. Like, it's just because it's constantly fluid. Like I could start eating pussy, I could start with a position, I could go back to eating pussy. It's like, because to me it's all sex. So I think sometimes people get this rigid box where they think, okay, like, well, I did the pussy eating, now I'm going to go through my whatever positions. I'm like, man, I switch shit up all the time, like, depending on whatever I want to do. Like I could be fucking a girl for 30 minutes, and then I decide, well, I want to go back to eating her pussy, and I just will, for 10, 15 minutes, whatever. Like, it's like, sex is totally fluid. And I think sometimes people get very rigid about the boxes that they like to tick off, like one by one, right? Like, oh, we did blowjob, now let's go to this and let's go to that. It's like, oh man.
You don't have, like, you brought up the whole LeBron James analogy. You don't have the whole we got to practice on layups tonight kind of analogy, because that's what that was to 3 hours. It was essentially the focus of practicing on a specific things. You made that analogy with LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
I was essentially practicing the multiple ways I could lay up a ball into a net.
Oh yeah.
You never done like that, practicing the layups and practicing your 3-point stance and your 3-point shot. And by the way, people, let me just address this. If it takes that long, you're doing something wrong. Absolutely not. Quite the opposite, actually. Quite the opposite. Because that's when the woman says, after a certain amount of time, enough's enough. But the fact that it goes for 3 hours means Sancho's doing something right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. For me, like at home, it's not a practice thing anymore. Like, it's interesting that for me, sex has come full circle, and it feels like it's a total state of relaxation in the sense of, I feel like, well, I've done everything. I definitely know what I like. I know the mechanics. It's this state where there's nothing I'm searching for anymore to acquire knowledge-wise. So I'm able to just sit back and just, like, man, just enjoy it. Just kind of be in the moment with it.
Walk us through what's next. What's on the agenda? The book, obviously, October 30th.
Yeah, well,
so you got a book release party? Is El Sancho invited to a book release party with a whole bunch of smoking hot porn stars? I don't know. I just invited myself if there was.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do a little party out here in the Czech Republic. We will see. But the next step after the book release is I have some video courses that are going to be coming out. So we will be going into that. That'll be the next thing. And then, we kind of talked about this my pivot after that will be to a podcast. So those are the big things that I'm looking at to close out the year, and then going into 2021 will be more courses for the guys, where they can get some real good learning, and then venturing into podcasting as well, so I can just get the message out to more people and help more people. And I think that's a great medium because much like you, I like to talk. So
What are your passions right now? I mean, I kind of look at the Porn Hall of Fame with you, obviously being there. You are still performing though. What kind of keeps you motivated with the porn, doing scenes, etc. With how accomplished you have been, and now you're kind of slowly. And I'm not saying making the transition or anything, but you're definitely making the transition to other things, being a sex coach, being an author, being a podcaster soon too. Do you kind of lose a little bit of that flame doing scenes, or do you know this is what brought me to the dance? Essentially, I enjoy doing it still. Ready? How's the philosophical mindset, Mr. Everhard? Do you like that?
well, yeah, I mean, well, definitely everything has shifted over the years for me, right? Even from a philosophical standpoint, because my I mean, God, even just who I was as a person, right? Like when I was young, I was just blind, super horny teenager. There wasn't any thought behind what I was doing other than like, it's not like I was doing porn for the money. I was just like, oh, I'm just super excited to do porno, right? And then it shifted to, well, okay, well, what can I learn from doing this, right? And then that shifted into, okay, well, with that knowledge, how can I help others? So everything has kind of been this complete shift over the years. So when I think about what's next, and has the flame gone out? I mean, for sex, the flame hasn't gone out. I mean, definitely for performing, I'm going to be hanging that up probably within the next year. Um, you know, I think it's good to keep myself in the pool for now, especially so that I can help guys and give guys more knowledge. But yeah, eventually I'm just gonna retire out of that and go full steam head on just with the coaching, because I think it's where I can make the biggest impact for guys, especially now. I just don't think there is the right kind of mentorship out there that guys need these days.
This is actually a big deal for me. Ready? I never thought I'd say this with you on the panel. Um, Actually, there's a sex question for El Sancho. Multiple orgasms, can they only be reached orally? Absolutely not. I think that it is an amazing feeling when you're able to make a girl come with your tongue. Absolutely, unequivocally, it is an amazing feeling. But as we know, that multiple orgasms can be accomplished through multiple avenues. I mean, we're
Oh yeah.
finger, dick, tongue, other devices as well to
Yep.
accomplish the multiple orgasms. Kind of like briefly, because you've been so charitable with your time. Thank you. Kind of walk us through the multiple orgasm goal. Should you really focus on that from the jump, or should you just focus on kind of mastering your game, so to speak? I mean, should it always be? Let's go back to the football analogy. Do you always need to put 30 points on the board to win the game? I don't think so.
No, no, no. I mean, all that matters is you win, right? Like, because the problem that guys can do, again, like, we don't want to put you don't want to put undue pressure on yourself that is going to limit your ability to perform, right? Like, like if you're, for example, I like the analogy. Let's use Tom Brady. Like, he's not sitting there, being down 20 points in the fourth quarter saying, "Oh my God, I need to put on 21 points, blah, blah, blah." No, he's just going out there and he's just executing like, "Hey, what's the next play? Let's just move the ball." Right? And if I move the ball every interaction, then I'm going to win the game. But you can't sit there thinking like, oh man, I need to give this girl 10 orgasms, because now you're going down that rabbit hole in your head, and then whatever you do is going to create anxiety because maybe you're not doing it or you're not accomplishing what you wanted, and then you're going to start having negative feelings about yourself, and none of that is useful. Like none of it is. So it's just get out on the playing field and just be like, okay, well, let's just get one. Let's work on just having the girl have a good time. Let's figure out what her clit is telling us. Let's figure out what it likes. Just step by step, just chunk it down into manageable pieces, right? Rather than, it's like, oh, we need to win the game. It's like, just move the ball first.
What's your take on, this is kind of the dating advice realm now that I'm going at. What's your take on long distance relationships and dick pics? Are you for or against sending dick pics?
I mean, unless a woman asks for it, I would never send it. I think it's stupid. And even then, I think it's you could build more excitement by not doing it. Keep her on her toes. As far as long distance relationships, I mean, I've experienced them. I've seen them. I definitely don't believe in them. I think, anything that is going to work, you need to have proximity to each other. You have to be around each other. So doesn't mean you couldn't meet somebody that lives in, say, another country, another city, but quickly you need to either move to them or they need to move to you, because maintaining this long distance, permanent type thing is just bullshit.
What's the difference of quickly? What's quickly? Like you said, like how soon?
I mean, within 6 months.
Time-wise?
I wouldn't be doing anything long. Yeah, within 6 months. Like if you're into somebody, like you got to make it happen within 6 months.
Well, you don't want to jump into it though.
Well, you do in the sense of, I think 6 months you should be able to figure out, hey, how much do I like them? Do our personalities mesh good enough? Because past that, the other things you aren't going to know unless you're in proximity with them, right? And also, people need, they need to be around somebody to get a sense of, is this somebody that I like? What are their quirks? What are all these things? And you'll never see those if you're just, visiting somebody once a month, right? Like you don't really get a sense of, well, what are they about? Because you're seeing them through this very small lens. So
How big, I mean, we talked about earlier about the chemistry versus physical, chemistry. There's a difference between emotional chemistry and physical chemistry. We've already we broke that down. How important is it to get both? How important is it to get that chemistry over the phone or over the internet, whatever it may be, but to also make sure that physical chemistry is there, because that's what's the key component in anything fruitful, fun, exciting, or long term.
Yeah, well, I think that's really what makes relationships so difficult, is you really are trying to get both of them, at least enough of both that everything works, right? Because if you look at it, well, okay, if you have shit sexual chemistry with somebody, right, but you've got amazing personal chemistry, then you have someone you want to hang out with and do things with and spend all this time with, and you never want to fuck, right? Conversely, it's the same thing. If you've got this amazing sexual chemistry, but you absolutely don't, find them intelligent, you've got nothing to talk about afterwards, it's like basically, that's kind of like a fuck buddy at best, right? And I've had those before, but you do understand, it's like it's like as soon as that orgasm is over, you're sitting there being like, man, we have nothing in common to talk about. Like as soon as we're not fucking, we ain't got nothing in common together. And that becomes disheartening as well, right? So there is this piece where you're looking to try and find, well, who out there is the person that can maximally satisfy both of those categories? And I mean, that's just a difficult thing.
So, question in the chat, real quick. Jessica S has a question.
Sure.
Question: any advice for people who've been together with someone for a long time? Let me kind of rephrase that for you, Jessica. Long term, any weapons to kind of spice things up? I'm guessing she's saying like any weapons in your repertoire can kind of spice it up a long term relationship, I guess.
Well, so one of the things I would like to think about when you're trying to spice up something is get out of a routine, right? And the thing is, this is going to likely have to be led more by the man than by the woman. But you have to be consciously aware that, hey, we've been for however many years, like we're having sex at the same bed, at the same this. It's like, no, man, you gotta at least keep the woman on her toes somewhat, and that could be, hey, you know what? Maybe we go out for dinner and pull her into the bathroom and just go down on her in a bathroom stall or some quick position, or start playing with things that are spontaneous, things that can be maybe even a little dangerous, something in public. And it's not like you got to do it all the time, right? It's just to add a little something where you don't exactly know what's coming next, because it's like filet mignon. Like, I mean, man, like everybody loves filet mignon, but not if you had it every meal of every day, right? It's like sometimes you're just like, man, just give me a pizza. So you got to think of sex as the same thing. It's like, well, sometimes just changing the location, changing the urgency, doing something dangerous, right? Like all those things can keep it spicy, because at least you don't know what's coming next, right? I mean, part of the rut that I see people get into is they always know what's going to happen, and it's human nature, right? Like so many people, they like the comfort of knowing what's coming next, right? That's why people get into certain jobs and they never leave them, because they're like, well, it's like, I know I go to work tomorrow and I know I have a paycheck and I know this, right?
But how important is it on the other side when you're, just starting out, like something like, where you just met a girl and the sex is great, everything's awesome. How important is maintaining that consistency so it doesn't get boring? Because you got to be consistent. Like you always, like the way I look at it with a new relationship is like, like what I'm looking at situational wise is you have to have a toolbox. You have to consistently keep them guessing, consistently keep them stimulated, consistently keep them horny as fuck and wanting more and more. You have to. You can never keep your eye off the clock. Let's just use that football.
Yeah, well, I mean, and this is one of the things too that I've really come to notice over the last couple of years myself, that I think a lot of guys, I mean, even myself, right? Like it really woke me to it, is as a guy, you never get to take your foot off the gas ever. But that's just life. I think whenever you actually think, oh, okay, well, this girl loves me, I can just finally relax. No, you're done then. I don't think there is never a time that you will ever get to relax as a man. And, I mean, that's a kind of a deeper rabbit hole we could go down, but it's because I think women, I don't think women love the same that men do. So I think, in some ways men love women for who they are, and women love men for what they are. And there's with that, there's the need to constantly, as a man, show up every day and give it your all, because otherwise you're eventually going to be cast aside. And it's not bad or good, it's just how it is.
It's sort of like you have to look at the sex as like an ADD kind of thing. Eventually their attention will go elsewhere if you don't keep it interesting.
Yeah.
You have to. Dick game's got to be strong, man.
Yep.
That dick game's got to be strong, and you can never be satisfied. Listen, I'm gonna do a quote for the night, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
And it could be, we got to boost your cum quota, people. You got to consistently boost that cum quota. You look at a girl and she came twice in one night. You got to say, let the next, next night, let's work for 3. Even let's work for 4. And I think getting that consistency, that spark, that moistness and hardness, and combining it all and boosting your cum quota, and getting like you and the 21 got, and kind of, being realistic, but being challenged as well isn't a problem.
Yep. And that's part of the thing, right? It's like, well, as guys, we need to keep pushing forward, right? And I think it's one of the hallmarks of being a guy, being a man. It's like, well, okay, you got to strive for more, better, faster, because otherwise you're just kind of dying. So, and I think that shows up in your sex life as well, right? You can never rest on your laurels. Like in porno, we always used to say, like, you're only as good as your last scene. Well, in relationships, shit's the same, right? Like, she doesn't care how many times you fucked her good in the past. She's caring about this morning.
That's the biggest part that I want everyone to kind of run with tonight is we're in the now.
Yeah.
What can you do for me now? Let's go. It's a new time. It's a new position. It's a new location, et cetera, et cetera. What can be done now to satisfy? It's, I fucked you really good last night. Like, you should be good. You say those words, get the fuck out. Get the fuck out, people.
Yep.
If you're gonna rest on your laurels of what you did in the past, just get the fuck out. You're in the wrong line of work. You're in the wrong interests. Go play pool. Go play fantasy football. Go do other things instead of fucking, because you can never rest on your laurels. You can never say, I fucked you really good last night. The way you need to look at it is, I fucked you really good last night. Let me try to fuck you better tonight and strive for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Consistently challenge yourself and never being content with your last performance. Tom Brady had 3 touchdowns. He needs to go for 4 now. They have that competitive attitude, like a LeBron James and Kyrie Irving and all these players. They look at the points per game record, and they want to break it. They look at this and look at that, and they look at that. They want to break records. That's what they're in this for. They're in this to break records. I think in a sexual relationship, it's good to kind of focus on some really friendly records to break, because it's a win-win for both involved,
Exactly. Just never get complacent, because, even if you don't break the record, at least you're trying, right? At least you're still moving in a forward, positive direction, and you're trying to keep your sex life important, and you're trying to make it better.
Great point.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up with anything you want to say to everybody. I want to ask about. I know your book hasn't launched yet, but are you kind of looking at a potential second book down the road?
Well, there's definitely there's two ebooks that I've already thought about doing. So and then as far as another physical book, I've got a couple different ideas that might be even have a little different twist on things. So they may go more into lessons that I learned from porno versus specific education and techniques like this one. So we'll see. There's a lot of different moving parts like swimming around in my head with all of it. So, but it's definitely exciting. But yeah, for now it's we're focused on book launch. For anybody that wants to pick up a copy, actually right now, if they go to www.sexualsuperpowers.com, we have a pre-launch. We're doing a book pre-launch deal there, where I'm creating some courses as well as you can get a discount on one-on-one coaching with me personally, and those are all in lieu of number of books sold. So basically, you buy a bunch of books and you get the coaching for free. So, and like I said, there are some nice discounts going on right now on those leading up to the launch on the 13th of October.
Get the book, everybody. It sharpens your mind. It sharpens your repertoire. I have read it. I love it. I think it's beyond informational, knowledgeable. It's definitely added quite a few new weapons to my repertoire. I will thank you for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How do we follow you? How does everybody follow you? I just plugged the sexualsuperpowers.com in the chat. Everybody, please get the book. Get the book. How do we follow you?
Two main ways that most people can get in touch with me nowadays. Either on @Erik Everhard official, which is my Instagram, or they can follow me on Facebook groups /Erik Everhard. There's a Facebook group on there, Elite Superpowers for Men. And inside there, I'm dropping daily and weekly free tips for guys as well. So
awesome.
Both of those are good ways to get in touch with me.
I look forward to round 3.
You got it, man. We will do it for sure. For sure. And this time I'm going to get one of those lazy bitches on. You're like, I don't care. You got to get up at 6:30. You're getting up.
Okay, listen, that dick game is strong. Get up, get up. That's what you got to, Sometimes you got to remind them of how their eyes rolled in the back of their head, et cetera, et cetera. You got to remind them of that.
Yeah, the memes that never die.
Erik, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Please like, share, and subscribe. I am so close to 1,000 subs. I can feel it. My nipples are getting hard. I'm getting a scintillation, titillization to 1,000 subs. Please like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to the podcast. I look forward to, if there's anything, this, I told you this before off air, anything I can do to assist you and help you with that.
Greatly appreciated.
I will be, you can add me to your repertoire. How about that, huh?
100%. 100%.
I fucking love it. And I love you. Thank you so much, everybody. Please subscribe to El Sancho Live, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
All right.